Now, there's been plenty of joking that our pets are the only ones benefiting from orders to stay at home as restrictions remain during this coronavirus pandemic. But what happens when we do return to work? It will be imperative that we begin to prepare our animals now to ensure it's not such an extreme transition, which is exactly why Victory officers have partnered with Lort Smith and smart dog behaviour training founder and trainer Mia Shaw. Lort Smith is an iconic Melbourne institution providing exceptional veterinary services for all pet carers. They aim to provide world-class animal healthcare and wellbeing services through high-quality vet care and state-of-the-art facilities. They also champion the human-animal bond and have a unique legacy of compassion for pets and people in our community. Mia Shaw, our trainer, has over 9 years of experience working in animal sheltering for rescue organisations and private clients. When not working with private clients, Mia keeps busy with her responsibilities as an animal welfare officer and head trainer at Lort Smith, which, as you may or may not know, is the largest animal hospital in Australia. So everyone, once again, thank you so much for joining us. Mia, I'll hand on over the reins to you.
All right. Thank you, Kate. Oh, welcome everyone. Hello, Wendy. I can see your cat. So cute. So yeah, it's such a thrill to be here, and thank you so much, Kate, for organising this, and Lisa from Lort. So yeah, look, as a trainer, certainly this is a big topic at the moment, and especially now as we do start to head into some easing of restrictions. So I'm just going to get through some points that we can all just, start to think about and maybe start to implement as you perhaps start to move into transitioning to the workplace, whether it's straight away or whether you'll kind of do it gradually. And this can apply for even if you might not be back until next year, because some clients that I speak to may not be going back to work until next year. So whatever it is for you, we've got some points that hopefully will be able to prepare your dogs your cats as well. So we want to talk about dogs and cats because look, cats, although they're as independent or they're more independent than dogs, they certainly can experience separation distress. Some of them are extremely sociable. So it's not just dogs that we want to be thinking about as well. And you may have guinea pigs, you may have bunnies, you may have that's probably about the extent of it in the city actually. But anyway, in terms of what we have in our homes, but you never know. So one thing that we want to start doing is, as much as possible, start to replicate the routine that you're going to have when you go back to work. So you want to, I know it can sound a little bit difficult, but you want to start to gradually decrease the amount of attention that your pet's getting just during the day. So if they're kind of like right near you when you're working from home and they're like on the couch or on your lap or they're just with you all the time, that's not going to be happening when you're not working from home. So we want to start to slowly and gradually decrease, the attention that they're getting during the day, that's all. So replicating the routine that you have just means if you're walking your animals usually in the mornings before work, start to do that again. So, and it might just mean also that you stop, if they're going for multiple walks throughout the day because you've got so much time, you might start to slowly and gradually decrease that attention and that type of activity as well. But the key thing here is that it's slow. I love that you guys are talking about a dental stick being chewed on at the moment. I can see that as well. So it has to be a slow decrease. We're not talking about all of a sudden you don't give your pets any attention. We would never want to say that. So they're our best friends, but we want to be able to prepare them for spending more time alone. That leads me into the next thing that's really important. And so this is environmental enrichment, or starting to get the guys, as in your furry family, happier being independent, happier being alone. So that means that we want to encourage them to enjoy activities that they can do by themselves. And that usually, it can often involve food. So it can be food puzzles, like your puzzle toys, your food dispensing toys. If you've got a courtyard or a backyard, you can do things where you scatter food in the backyard and they have to go on a little treasure hunt. I'm glad I've remembered this, but there is an awesome Facebook page, if anyone's on Facebook. It's called Canine Enrichment. It's just a group. So you can join that page, and it's basically people from all over the world just posting videos of what they do with their pets to keep their pets entertained. It's priceless. So you don't need to go and spend a bunch of money on, a whole lot of different items. You can do a lot of DIY stuff just to get your pets happier being alone. So we want to pair their alone time with something that they enjoy. That's really important. So isolation is not something that we're kind of wanting to do. We're just wanting to actually pair that time with something they enjoy. Otherwise, they may see it as a punishment, which is not what we want. So it's a very gradual progression, to kind of decreasing attention, changing the routine into what it's going to be like when you both go back to work, or when the family or the household goes back to work, and start to ramp up the activities that the animals are doing when they're by themselves. So another important thing, and this is for cats and dogs as well, when your arrivals and your departures overall should be very low key. So if you make a massive big deal out of arriving home and a big deal when you leave, then your pet will kind of have that association and potentially, feel like it's a massive big party every time you get home. And then when you leave, there's this very big contrast, in the quietness between, or the kind of energy levels of them. All of a sudden, there's no one home, there's no energy, there's no activity, and they're left alone. So as a general rule, not just even in the thank you, Wendy, legend, even just, overall, you should you should kind of have your your arrivals and departures should always be pretty low key. And that's like extremely important if your pet pre-pandemic had been experiencing any type of separation, isolation, or distress. It's a really big one. And again, it can feel nasty. And like, I'm not saying to ignore them entirely. When you get home, the thing to do is wait until the animal's calm, do everything that you need to do first, put your bag down, whatever you normally do. And then when they're relatively calm, then you might give them attention. When you leave in the morning or whenever you go to work, depending on what time you start, that's when you might even give them a Kong or some type of chew thing that they can chew on. And then you might ignore them for 5 or 10 minutes and then just leave really calmly. So again, we're trying not to have this huge contrast between when you're with them and then when you leave. So, and we know in particular dogs are extremely social creatures, and a lot of cats are as well. Like, not all cats, but a lot of them are. So you can get enrichment items for cats as well. It's not just dogs. Some of you have got dogs and stuff, you might have Kongs and all that type of stuff. You can get all of those food dispensing and puzzle toys for your cats as well. You can get slow feeders. For all of that stuff, if you check out that Facebook page, it'll give you some more ideas. But if you go to some of the bigger pet stores, especially like My Pet Warehouse, they've got a huge range of stuff that they can, there's usually a few key kind of toys that you might want to get, and you invest in them, and they can be really beneficial. So you might also want to start to desensitize your pets to your pre-departure cues. So if you're finding that your cat or your dog, particularly a dog, I guess, because your cats don't really go for a walk, although that you might walk your cat. I have harness trained my cat. So pre-departure cues for dogs. So that's the thing where, like, you put on your shoes and your dog's like, oh my God, yes, we're going, because they know, and we're very habitual. So they know that when you put on your shoes, when you do these little rituals, that you're going to leave the house. And then if you grab the lead, then of course they know what's going on, or the harness. So you might start to randomly pick up those things and then put them down throughout the day or when you're home. So then that particular item doesn't always predict you going on a walk or the animal going on a walk. So a little bit of desensitization to some of those pre-departure cues, and you might want to have a think about what some of your cues are as well. Do you always put the same shoes on before you go for a walk? Even just picking up keys and stuff like that, usually pets will get pretty excited when they hear some of that stuff. So you can just, think about, just randomly picking that stuff up and putting it down. So we break that kind of, it no longer predicts the dog or always going for a walk. So when you do leave them alone, there's certain calming, methods and techniques and strategies that you can use. There's studies that have suggested that there's certain types of soothing music that can be great for dogs and cats. In a shelter environment, not that we're looking at that particularly, but it can be classical music. They've done studies there. My oldie is a bit deaf, so this doesn't really apply to him because he can't hear anything anyway. But when he and my other girl were a little younger, I used to put on just some jazz sometimes or any kind of calmer music, just pretty chilled out music where and it can also block out just some of the sounds, the environmental sounds if you have a dog or a cat that gets a little bit reactive to sounds outside the home. So soothing music can be something that you can leave on when you're leaving your pets at home. It could also be an audio book because, animals love the sound of voices. And I mean, you could even record yourself. So it could be your voice. So you can get creative with that, like that could just be something that you can play around with. I would probably suggest that if you're extremely worried about this situation, that you might even film your dog or cat. So if you really want to get a good idea of what's going on when you're not home, that's pretty much what you have to do. And then you want to start working through these things as soon as you can, because it's going to be, we are easing out of our harsh restrictions here in Melbourne, and that means that there'll be more activity. We'll be away from home more often. So another thing you can do with the dogs and your cats at home is just get them used to being in a separate space during the day. So like I'm saying, decrease the attention and all that kind of stuff. But you might make another part of the house really interesting for them that's not right near you. So it's always about pairing that stuff with something that the dog or the cat enjoys. So it's never feeling like a form of punishment for them. That's really important. If you are a family that uses a pet sitter or a dog walker, or you go to, not you, but your pets go to daycare, you might start to get them into that routine now as well. So even though you're home, I know it might feel a bit like, why would I pay someone to come and walk the dog? But it's just all about kind of getting back into that routine that we're in before this unusual situation began. So you could slowly inch your way into that kind of stuff as well. If they stayed at someone else's house 1 or 2 days a week, see if you can do that. But if they are staying at someone else's house and that person's working from home, we need to make sure that you've got all of those independence strategies going on as well. So now, just in terms of if there's anyone that does have animals already that have separation anxiety or don't like being left alone, if your pets are getting up, not so much for a cat actually, this is more for our dogs. One of my animals who I did lose recently, but old age, she was fine. She used to follow me around. She was what we call a Velcro dog. So I would get up to go somewhere and there she would be, just all the time for 15 and a half years, which was lovely. We loved each other, but it's not something that she really needed to do. So if you find that your pets are doing that, one of the best ways or one of the best cues to help with that is just a really reliable go to your bed cue. So you just have a really big comfy dog bed, or maybe they stay in a crate, and just keep redirecting them back onto their crate or bed whenever they try to get up and follow you around, because we don't want them to think that they need to do that. And we want them to settle onto their beds. And just because you're getting up to go to the kitchen or the bathroom or whatever, we don't want them to think that they have to come up and, to get up and follow you around, because that's that clingy behavior that we're trying to combat a little bit, by building some more independence. What else? And so probably before we take some questions, because I don't want to bombard you too much. Yeah, German Shepherd's Velcro for sure, Misha. So, and that's another reason why we want to really pair the dog's alone time with something that they enjoy that just does not involve you. And what you can do is when you come back or when you enter the situation again, you can take that thing away. So that super fun thing that happens for them only happens when they're by themselves. If it's like their favorite chew toy or something like that, that only comes out when you're not around. Again, dogs are very smart, so are cats, and we don't want them predicting that just because that higher value item comes out, you're going to be leaving. So just it's a little bit of trial and error sometimes. They're all so individual, and this is a situation that's pretty much unprecedented. So, and we've kind of come in and out of it as well. So you might need to just try some things. You can also start to do gradual departures from the house. So again, if your dog's or your cat's showing some signs of separation anxiety or distress or isolation, start to do little little setups where you leave the house for 5 minutes, then you come back, and then you might leave for 10 minutes, then you come back. But you can only pay attention to the pet once if they're calm. So you don't give them attention if they're whining or pacing or kind of, because again, we don't want them to think that that behavior will kind of keep you there or will get you coming back. We always want them to know that calm behavior equals you returning, and any whining or barking or howling won't get you coming back. And I know that's hard because you kind of have to ignore it to a certain degree. But the thing is that we need to get them used to you leaving and coming back, and for them to know that you will come back. But if they start, barking or howling, that's not the behavior that will get you back. Now, for the dogs again, and look, maybe for your cats, this could be a play session. But you want to, because, if you've got the type of job where you're gone for 8 or 9, 10 hours a day, I would suggest that the exercise that you give your pets is the more rigorous exercise just before you leave. So, daylight savings, we're getting into that. Oh, the light's coming. So it might mean that you have to get up a little bit earlier, but a tired dog or cat is one that's more likely to be settled during the day. So if you say, if you take your dog on 2 walks a day, then see if you can have the one that's more rigorous and more tiring. That walk should probably be before you're leaving for the day, because they're going to be a bit more tired. Give their brekkie or their food after the walk, but if it's a really rigorous walk, you want to make sure that you're leaving about half an hour or so, because we don't want any upset bellies. Or that's where you might be kind of leaving their food in some food dispensing toys or in the backyards. John, yeah, kids, that's hard, right? I mean, none of it's kind of easy, to be honest, and our pets have been such a massive comfort through to us throughout this period, but if you start to slowly implement some of these strategies, it's just going to help to transition them, and we want to give back to them. So it's really important that we start to put some of these things into place, because it's going to make that that change a lot more just easier for everyone. So obviously, if you're seeing some really serious issues, you need to get in touch with a reward-based trainer or behaviourist, and Lort Smith, we can always assist there. So, these are strategies that are quite general, but then everyone's very individual and everyone's situation is individual. So there's always support if you need it once we actually do get into a situation where we're back at work. So those were my main points. And then, look, if you have any questions or anything in particular, I think we've got another 5 minutes or so, Kate, is that right? And we can, we can have a little bit of a chat.
Yeah, absolutely. And just for those that don't have the video on, please feel free to put it on. We'd love to see your faces and also your furry pet faces as well. So yeah, if anyone has a question and you don't know how to unmute yourself, just let me know. Either raise a hand and physically or technologically. Perfect.
Mia, I've got a question, and it probably goes a little bit more on the serious side. We have 2 ragdoll cats because we can commit to cats because dogs are people. Yeah. So, and as much as one of my cats actually has a complex and thinks he's a dog because he fetches incessantly, I think there's just a real reality that that Lort Smith will be ideally positioned to assist with, sadly, as we start to roll out of this COVID, the puppies to amuse ourselves with during this time, people are going to come to realize, I'm not going to be in a position to moderate the behavior and help them settle. It's all going to be all too hard. Please, Lort Smith, please rehome my animal. Do you predict that that's going to be a massive issue, Mia?
As trainers, it's been, working as a behaviourist, it's been very hard to see the amount of puppies that have been adopted throughout and acquired throughout this period, because people have tended to get, I think that there's lots of sides to this. It's great that people are adopting But, you know, we have concerns that people are adopting and getting animals at a time when it's just so unprecedented. Everyone's, you know, just wanting company. And, you know, look, Lort is always a service that will do everything that we possibly can to rehome an animal, provided, you know, there is criteria surrounding that. But, you know, we would never turn away any animal provided we had the space and they were an animal that we could help to rehome. Yeah, it's a very real concern for sure, Wendy. So, I mean, there's a lot of organisations, you know, shelters and rescue groups in Victoria. And, you know, I mean, the main thing is that we would just suggest if you know of anyone who's having real trouble, you know, just get them. We can give you a list of reward-based trainers. You know, you can at least give someone the details of someone who could hopefully help with the behavioural issues. Pet sitters and dog walkers are really inexpensive. That can be one way, like when people start leaving pets in the backyard and such because they can't, you know, they don't have any more time. There are strategies, you know, and sometimes people aren't aware of some things that other people that might be the first thing you think of. So yeah, it's definitely something that we're kind of, you know, that I think is a concern, but hopefully it won't happen. Yeah, it's hard to know.
And Lorena, I think you had a question.
Yes. Hi, Mia.
Hello.
Thank you for all the things you said. They're very helpful. So we adopted Gracie a few months before everything happened. So she hasn't been exposed to a lot of people coming home. And she's a cattle dog. And when we got a few people before they locked us, she was reacting a little bit funny and like trying to be protective of the house and trying to bite people. So we tried to like give her a treat and try to like calm her down, but we haven't been able to do that. So now it's been months, she's grown up and we don't know how she's going to react when we're going to get people home. So what do you think we should do?
Yeah, Lorena, is that only happening when people are coming into the house? Is she having what you like? Is she kind of reacting negatively toward people coming into the home?
Yeah, and she's very protective of me. Like, I think I'm the alpha. Even when we go to the park and we meet other dogs, I can't like touch any other dog because she will like come to the dog straight away. Right. So we had a trainer before like lockdown. We can't now, but she said she's a cattle dog and we can't change that. So I don't know if there's a way of
yeah, I wouldn't suggest that it's a breed specific trait at all. It sounds to me like you need to certainly do some counter conditioning, some really careful and slow socialization. So we want to start to pair again. This is a big thing with animals. Pairing, you know, they make associations very easily with people or situations, and it's either negative or positive. So it also sounds like there could be a little bit of what we call resource guarding going on, where the dog is guarding something that they value very highly, and that thing can be you. It doesn't have to be food or a bed. It can be the person. So in terms of having people come over, the main thing that we want to make sure is that everything's really calm. So another thing for everyone, when you start to have guests over at, you know, some stage, make sure they're not making a really big deal when they first arrive as well. The calmer everything is, the lower the arousal level, the less kind of, you know, reaction you're going to get from the dog. And you should certainly be pairing any new people with something very high value to your dog. So they could, you know, the person coming in could maybe be tossing treats. They could have some very high value food. They don't necessarily need to try to go and initiate any contact or, you know, with the dog, because your dog might not be comfortable with that. You might need to have your dog on a leash as well when you have guests coming in. So if the dog is kind of rushing up to people or anything like that, we don't want them to be able to do that. So you might need to have a little bit of control there, but at the same time, you're still rewarding the dog for calm behavior, but really managing the way the humans are interacting with the dog as well. So try to do setups where it's just one person. So keep it very low key. one person that maybe your dog is a little bit familiar with, have them come in. So always have the arrival of guests equal something that your dog really enjoys. So guests arrive, great thing happens, and that could be food or it could be play, something like that. And for sure, it's, socialization has been a real thing, especially for, puppies during this period are being called pandemic puppies. So it's kind of like, people who got their puppies throughout the pandemic. And we haven't been able to, provide them with the type of environmental socialization that we normally would. And, socialization covers not just other animals and people, but it's the environment as well. A lot of us live near public transport or whatever. And, that's during that critical period for dogs from about 8 to 16 weeks is when we'd normally be exposing them really positively to all of these things. So as we start to open up, just see if you can start to gradually and positively expose your puppies and your dogs, or your puppies and your kittens, to things that they're going to come across more regularly, but start very low key. Like you wouldn't just have a bunch of people come over and see how you go. So yeah, but if you do have ongoing issues with that, again, contact Lort and we can maybe arrange, like another session with one of the trainers but yeah, again, slow and gradual is the key, but start to, make sure the arrival of guests is always something positive for the dog, so they don't feel like they need to, there can be natural traits in dogs where they guard and they're protective. I don't know your dog, so I'm not quite sure. It could be other things going on, but yeah, lots of high value food, but also manage your dog and manage the situation when people are first arriving.
Okay, great. Thank you.
No worries.
Such good advice. I think we have time for one more question if anyone wants to say anything.
Is that a big Samoyed there?
Okay. Are you talking about Monica's dog?
Yeah.
It's so fluffy.
Oh, so cute.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right, guys. Well, since there are no more questions, I'd obviously love to say a massive thank you to Lisa from Lort Smith, and of course to Mia. Thank you so much for taking this time with us. We also ran a little bit of a competition this week, a pet selfie competition, and we do have a winner. So I'd like to say a big congratulations to @Gracie.therescue. We'll be letting her or him know. I'm not sure if the Gracie is the dog or the person. We'll be letting them know that they've won, and they will be getting a little dog cookie pack from Hudson Toke. So congratulations. And once again, thank you guys so much to Lort Smith. If you haven't already, please go donate. The link to the foundation page is in the chat box. However, I will be sending a follow-up email after this with all those links, including Mia Shaw's links as well, where you can find her if you are looking for a little bit of extra help as we come out of this pandemic and restrictions ease. All right, everybody, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I look forward to seeing you online again soon.
Thank you, Kate.
Goodbye, everybody.
Thanks, Mickey.